institution, half asset management, using an app, which unfortunately you cannot download because we're in New York. We're working on that.
I have it. I'm in New York.
You are an earlier customer. That was before the regulator decided not to allow us to use it. Well, we'll talk about that. So you deposit our coins with us. In the world of regulation, we say we borrow the coins from you and we pay you rewards, or also known as interest. We're managing $28 billion in assets on behalf of 1 million customers in 120 countries, 700 people all around the world. We did a small ICO in 2018, and ever since we did 2 rounds of funding. The latest one, we raised $400 million from 2 venture funds, one from Canada, which is a private equity fund, and another one from New York. And our goal, our mission, is to put economic freedom in the hands of the people. I don't know how many of you, well, all of you, are using, various banks, and when you deposit your money, your hard-earned dollars into a typical bank account, you make maybe 0.5% if you're lucky. With Celsius, you make between 8 to 12% interest a year. And when you borrow from us, unlike the banks or credit card companies that charge you between, 7 to 12%, you can borrow money from Celsius at 1% interest. So we took the hedge fund model that usually reserved for the rich and famous and flipped on its head. And we're bringing, using cryptocurrencies, power back to the people, making financial inclusiveness available to all.
Very nice, thank you. So let's just, for people who don't know, give us a little bit of background. Exactly what is DeFi, how it started, and then how do you fit into that space?
DeFi stands for decentralized finance. Instead of having a middleman that stands between 2 parties, we're leveraging a smart contract that at a predetermined price or time either release a certain element of collateral. But before we have to talk about DeFi, let's talk about what blockchain is. How many of you know what blockchain is? Blockchain is one of those things, it's like you ask 2 Jews a question, you get 4 answers. There's something very similar in blockchain. You ask even the best engineers what blockchain is, and they're all going to give you different answers. The way I explain blockchain to people before we deal with DeFi is that blockchain, for the first time ever, removed the middleman right from the equation. When you go to a store and you buy something and you give somebody dollars for it on a Diet Coke, there was a transaction. We didn't have to have anyone that stand between me and the buyer or me and the seller, right? But when you, in the digital world, right, when we don't really see, when I don't get the product right away, we have to have somebody standing between us. It can be a bank, it could be a credit card, PayPal, government, you name it. The problem is that power corrupts. And over time, what used to be known as community banks that actually did well, they've become greedier and greedier, and that centralized authority, that centralized institution, we believe, made life harder for so many of us. And here comes Satoshi Nakamoto in 2018, and for the first time ever, we're able to come up with a way to conduct commerce, to conduct transactions without that middleman, right? That's what blockchain is. Okay, so Celsius borrows money, borrows crypto from people and deploy that crypto into various CeFi and DeFi projects. So when we say CeFi, we have a desk that borrows those coins from our treasury, and then goes out there and lend those coins to centralized institutions. And then we also have desks that deploy or provide liquidity to decentralized financial projects and protocols. And the idea is that when we generate yield, if it's either from CeFi or from DeFi project, 80% of that yield is given back to the community. To date, especially last year and a half, Celsius has paid $1 billion in interest back to the community. I don't know how many financial institutions you know, with the exception of the big ones, that actually paid so much money back. Now, we could have easily take 80% and bring it back to shareholders. But what we've decided, Alex and I and Nuke, what we've decided to do is truly build a company that, and I know it's a cliche, but we honestly believe that we're changing the world by building a platform that puts the community, the customer at the center. 80% of whatever we make from DeFi project, from CeFi project, is returned back to the community.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So a little while ago, we also talked about, so you go a little bit beyond just lending and borrowing. What other avenues of blockchain and crypto are you into?
So we just announced that we invested $500 million into mining. By March, April of next year, Celsius will be the biggest miner in the United States, in North America. That's another way for us to bet on the future of cryptocurrencies. If you go long, you might as well go long and own the mining operation, and own actually the manufacturing, for lack of a better word, manufacturing of Bitcoin. And there's other projects that you know, as long as they help us to add value to the end user, we would invest in that project. So we just bought a company called GK8 that does staking and custody. So it's a combination of cold and hot wallet. One of the smartest people that we found in the state of Israel, people who came from the Israeli military intelligence and were able to build a piece of software and a piece of hardware that would allow us to conduct transactions without being connected to the internet. Just think about this for a second. Usually when you have a machine, the phone, a device, there's a two-way connectivity. They were able to build a piece of hardware that has only one-way connectivity. There's no way of getting into the machine, into that piece of hardware. The hardware only communicates out. And we still are able to settle transactions with that cold wallet. So with that acquisition, Celsius will be able to offer custody solution for free. Again, we charge no fees whatsoever. You buy crypto with us, the only fees that you pay is the credit card transaction fee. You swap crypto with us, no fees whatsoever. When you withdraw, when you deposit, no fees whatsoever. We want to continue, as long as our business model works, we want to continue to offer our services with no fees whatsoever. That's the promise that we make to the customer. So our job is to chase yield. And wherever that yield is, while we're managing the risk, so we brought on the last year 20-some people from JP Morgan, from Goldman, who've been managing risk of billions of dollars to manage risk that we might have with our counterparty, right? So we have financial institution, hedge funds, family offices borrowing from us, and when they borrow your coins, the community coins, obviously they have to put in collateral in exchange or against those loans that we make. So it's all about diversification, right? Because you know, when you're managing $1 billion, it's one thing. When you're managing $28 billion, going up to $50 billion soon, it's getting harder and harder to chase that yield. And that's why we're building the team that we need to have in order to continue to offer the yields that we're offering to our customers.
That's pretty amazing. So also talk a little bit about how you founded the company. You said that what you guys want to do is you want to decentralize like really decentralized finance, not just call it DeFi so everyone jumps on the wagon. So talk about a little bit like your background, your co-founder. How did you come about? How did you get this idea for this company?
You know, ideas come from strange places. The idea for Celsius, a good friend of mine here from Milburn, New Jersey, came to the city one day in March of 2017. He said, "Daniel, look, there's this crypto thing." I'm like, "Crypto? What is crypto?" It's like, "No, you gotta look into this." And I started digging a bit. And Alex and I, who had two companies before, I joined his venture capital firm. And after that lunch with Yair, I came upstairs and I'm like, "Look, I just met this crazy guy talking about coins." And he's like, "Coins? Yeah, blockchain, we gotta look into it." So at that point in time, we were investing in Israeli companies and helped to bring them to the United States. Something very similar to this fine lady, what she's doing here with this hotel. And we started looking into crypto. Now, Alex, who at that time was 56, I think, and sold a few companies, said to me, look, I'm not coming back from retirement unless what we do allow us to do good, not only do well. So crypto allowed us, enabled us to build a company that does good before we do well. Because it's for the first time ever that we're able to leverage that piece of technology that truly bring back power to the people, right? By removing that centralized body, we can make it super efficient and super cheap for us to transact with one another. Okay, so when we start looking into this, we're like, wow, there's an enablement technology here that can really change the world. I finally convinced Alex to leave that very nice apartment of his and roll up his sleeves. And for the last, few years, we've been building this. And I tell you, I was just in the Calcalista and I told the story that this wasn't cool for a very long time. We didn't have people like you come to listen to people like me talking about crypto. So the story goes is that I worked at WeWork in Tel Aviv. It was 3 years ago. And then I was pouring my coffee. Thank you, Adam Neumann, for all this free coffee. Then he's like, I'm pouring my coffee, and I see this guy coming down the stairs. I haven't seen him for a long time. And he's like, how have you been? I said to him. And he's like, yeah, I've been good. I just came back from Silicon Valley, Sandal Road. We just raised all this money. I raised $4 million run B. Years ago, $4 million run B was a lot of money. Now, it's a coffee bill. It's insane what's going on out there. So he says to me, so we raise all this money, we're hiring all these developers, and we're shipping all this product, life is good. And then he says to me, what about you? And I said, I'm using digital assets to bring financial freedom to the people. He's like, digital assets? He's like, you mean crypto, right? I'm like, yeah, crypto. Then he's like, oh. I'm like, well. I'm like, oh. I'm like, no, just tell me what you mean by saying oh. He says to me, if I were you, I wouldn't be doing this. This is not good for your reputation. It's all scammers. And I said, dude, you make me feel as if I'm running a porn company. And then he said to me something I'll never forget. He said, I would rather you run a porn company than a crypto company. And 3 years ago, that was the reputation. That was the norm. And to the point that I remember going to these founders events, and I would hide somewhere in the corner because it was just not cool to do this kind of stuff. And it's not their fault. I think that the ease of raising money during the ICO process just opened it up to some bad actors who came in. But think about what was this ICO. Think about this good old boys club in Silicon Valley that kept offering these amazing opportunities only to a small group of people. For the first time, we had a vehicle that would democratize private equity, that would democratize venture capital. And then, unfortunately, we took that amazing opportunity and we ruined it with a few bad actors. So that's how we started this. I came to Alex and said to him, there's an interesting opportunity, and Alex put the first run of the first investment, and then we did this ICO. And when Alex came to me one day and he said, when we started this, it was kind of peer-to-peer payment. And when you do peer-to-peer loans, it's always hard because there are a lot of people who want to borrow from you, but there are very few people who would like to lend to you. So it was really challenging. And then Alex said to me, let's do this. Let's offer interest. I'm like, what do you mean offer interest? He's like, trust me, it's going to be okay. I said, no, what do you mean? He's like, we're going to create this app and we're going to convince people to lend us their crypto, and we're gonna pay them interest. I said, you're crazy. Why would anyone do that? It's not that they can see us. There's no brick and mortar store. And what was interesting is we launched the app in around June of 2018. And Alex is good. He's the kind of inspirational speaker. And then a few people, and then a few more. They would put a shekel or a dollar, and then they would draw it right away to make sure that they could take the money, and then they'll put another few dollars, then take it right away. And then one Monday, we paid interest, and people were like, wow, this actually works. So they kept putting more and more and more, and with almost no marketing whatsoever, almost all viral marketing through events like this, through AMAs, conferences, we were able to amass close to 1 million people that every single week earn interest or rewards with Celsius. And that's without ever meeting me or a few times meeting Alex in different type of events. And we're able to build that trust. Now, as you know, trust takes years to build and seconds to lose. And I think ever since, and you and I talked about regulation and some of these letters that we received from various states, we've been fighting to maintain that trust, right? And it's been a constant battle, but to be honest with you, when I go to events like this and I see people who for the first time ever, and I always want to tell that story, I get really emotional. We had a woman that came to us and said, for the first time, I'm able to pay the medical bills of my daughter thanks to Celsius. I'm able to pay the college, the dues, the tuition thanks to Celsius. And the ability to hear these stories, fuck, you know, I don't think there's anything that makes you more kind of meaningful, if you wish.
That's pretty awesome. You guys are committed to helping make not just decentralized finance, let's say blockchain, cryptocurrencies in general, accessible to just about everyone. And I admire that. That's really good. So what are some other things that you see that are coming over the horizon that you're seeing that in the future are going to enable, you know, everyone to participate in this economy?
NFT, I think, is a really interesting development that people should watch carefully. There was a lot of buzz early on, and it kind of subsided, but we're seeing more and more people, you know, trying to monetize their content. And what's really nice about what's happening out there with this creator economy, right? And I think the internet overall, and now what's known as Web3, is going to enable us using cryptocurrencies to empower one another, to not only make our dreams come true, but to really monetize them without having somebody to kind of stuck between us and our customers. And you're seeing these type of creators able to digitize their creation and going out there and selling it. It's still really early. This may collapse before it's going to be reborn, and it's going to be de facto the future. But when I look at this combination of the internet and crypto monetization, if you wish, I see the power slowly shifting, right? From the Facebook of the world, from the Google of the world, from all these platforms that take our content, our attention, generating billions of dollars at our expense. Yes, supposedly they're giving us something, right? This event was promoted on Facebook, so they gave us something. But at the end of the day, I think that this disproportionate influence and power that these platforms have at their expense is about to change in a really, really big way, thanks to blockchain technologies. And I tell you, banks and Facebook and Google and the government, they are concerned. And they have reason to be concerned because, hey, they're about to lose their influence, they're about to lose their power. They're not going to lose it without a fight. They're fighting us, they're fighting our competition, they're fighting companies like this gentleman's company, and they'll continue to fight. But I think what they have all realized lately, when they gave PayPal the right to, buy, sell, hold crypto, is that that train has left the station. That crypto is here to stay. We may have a few hard years ahead of us, but I think 10 years down the road, you'll see that that's all we're going to talk about. That we're going to be transacting using that type of new monetary system. For now, cryptocurrency is a store of value, right? When you think about money, what is money? You've got that a store of value, means to an exchange, and a unit of account, right? So right now, the best use of crypto or Bitcoin is a store of value. Compare the value of Bitcoin to the value of the dollar. Do you know what percentage of dollar in circulation have been printed the last 18 months? Anybody?
46.
No. 30. Okay? 30% of all dollars have been printed the last 18 months. I walked to Starbucks the other day. A latte costs $7. Okay? When you consider the rent, the cost of renting in the city, we're looking at inflation of 12%. That's insane. That's tax, that's that hidden tax on your money. And that's tax as a result of trillions of dollars that the Fed has been printed supposedly to fight a recession that was a result of COVID, right? And so look, people ask me, oh, what should I do? How much Bitcoin should I buy? I can't provide you financial advice, but I can tell you what I told my daughter and my father. My father is in my 70s. I said to him, look, Dad, take 5% of your portfolio, 3% of portfolio, you're in your 70s, it's risky, put it in Bitcoin and crypto. And to my daughter, I said, take 50% of your bat mitzvah money and put it in crypto, right? So you decide what to make out of that sentence. I cannot, give you any financial advice whatsoever. To us, to Celsius, to our customers, we're betting on that future. And for now, we're doing okay.
Excellent. I think there's probably going to be ups and downs, but
Absolutely.
crypto it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Bitcoin, DeFi, NFTs, none of it is going anywhere. And I think what you said earlier, where power is being decentralized and spread to people are going to realize that. And I think not only from an investment perspective, oh, I want to make money, I think everyone should be participating, because if everyone participates, they can't stop us, right? If people start getting scared, I'm going to lose my money, don't put all your money in. Put a little bit of money, but be a participant. Don't stand by and be a bystander. Be a participant, and that's how we win. That's how we get to where we're going to go. I want to take some questions, but I just want to hit on one point that I think is probably important to talk about. Regulation. We're in this, I call it a primordial soup this is the space that we're in right now. So eventually things are going to coalesce and be more clear. What's going on? You have a front row seat to regulation. This is hitting you hard, right? So tell us a little bit about what's happening now and how you see it progressing in the future.
Look, I think regulation is the necessary evil. We're in favor of regulation. We believe that only when regulation comes into this space, you'll have some big players like hedge funds and pension funds participating in cryptocurrencies, right? Taking a bet on cryptocurrencies. The first few years, there was very little. And in fact, what we felt regulators were telling us is that we're going to kill this by not giving you any guidance whatsoever. And that was kind of scary. When I moved back to Israel in the early 2020, my phone was ringing. I don't know about you guys, the phone never rings. I send a text message to one another. And my wife's like, just pick up. I'm like, I'm not picking up. Someone's called me from the US, I'm not picking up. And then they call again, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna pick up the phone. So I pick up the phone. He's like, Mr. Leon. I'm like, yeah. This is James Smith from Washington State. I'm like, okay. He's like, I'm the head of security, enforcement agency. I'm like, okay. He's like, you guys have 3 days to submit this information or we're shutting you down. That was the first interaction that I had. Luckily, I picked up the phone with regulators. And ever since, we got a bunch of letters the state of New Jersey, Kentucky, Texas. And when you get as big as us, and we're not the only player that have been kind of getting those letters, the SEC stopped Coinbase from offering a similar service to ours. And Coinbase being a public company, this seems like, don't fuck with us. We're not letting you offer this service. We believe that regulation has an important role to play in legitimizing this industry. The big question is how far they're gonna go. Are they gonna stifle innovation? And they have many reasons to do so, because there are some powerful friends in Washington that really don't like what we're doing. Because as I said earlier, it's gonna take their power away from them and give it back to you. Or they're gonna allow it to play out in one way or another. Now there's actually a battle going on in Washington between the CFTC, the SEC, the Department of Justice. Every agency wants a piece of this. They're not aware, that they don't really know what to do. Is crypto security? Is that a commodity? Is that money? Well, that depends what kind of crypto. Is stablecoin real money? Well, maybe yes, maybe no. So they're debating right now on what to do. The good news, they're not gonna stop this. They're gonna make it harder on all of us. But I think in the long term, I think that's the right move. We're talking to a lot of funds out there, and we talked about our services and about borrowing from us. And the biggest funds in the world really want to play in this space. They want to diversify. They want to own some Bitcoin or any other form of cryptocurrency. But the biggest funds are telling us that until the regulator comes in and say that that's okay, they're not going to play. The last year or so, some big development. PayPal, as I said, New York Bank Mellon, MasterCard, Visa, many banks throughout the country. The OCC, the charter of the bank, said it's okay for them to hold crypto and offer those services to their customers. And we're seeing more and more funds coming in and holding this. And then we obviously saw the future ETF and futures on Bitcoin. And now there's debate with the SEC on when to allow, if to approve ETF. I think eventually they'll approve it. And eventually it's gonna be a good thing. All we've been asking regulators for years is tell us, give us some guidance. Is this money? Is this security? We had a conversation with a regulator in some country in Europe, and we said, okay, fine, we'll take a license. What kind of license? They're like, we'll give you one, we just don't know what license to give you. We're like, look, we want to play by the rules. Just tell us, we'll file for a license. Here, we've got all these lawyers on payroll, all these accountants, we're fully audited, give us the license. They're like, no, there's no such a license exist. Right, so the good news, what's the value of the market now? $2.5 trillion. It's a big market. They have to pay attention to it now. In the long term, in the short term, it's going to be painful. In the long term, it's going to play in our favor.
I wholeheartedly agree. All right, we're going to take some questions if anyone has any questions. Oh, a lot of questions. All right, we'll start on this side.
Thank you, Daniel. So with DeFi protocols like Cream basically causing consumers to lose confidence in the DeFi industry, what are the measures that you guys are actually putting in place to give people the confidence that the security is actually secure?
Yeah, it's a good question. DeFi right now is the Wild West. I told my friend here that we have a lot of projects that have come to us and say, oh, just provide us liquidity, we'll give you 50% return, 100%. I mean, it's insane what's going on there. So we do two things with DeFi. First, our risk team spends days and weeks analyze these projects. Our security team spends days and weeks analyze the security of the protocol. It's really, really tempting. In CFI, we can generate, I don't know, 8, 9%. DeFi, we can generate tens of percentage points. But it's enough for us to make one mistake, even with all the temptation, for us to lose the confidence of customers like yourself, right? So it just, we gotta be very, very careful, and we are extremely careful. It's, when you look at $30 billion, I don't know, I haven't looked at our portfolio lately, but a few bill possibly is in DeFi. I wish we would have put much more, right? But it's still the Wild West out there. And I encourage all of you, when you go to all these different platforms and you see what you can make on some of these protocols, 10, 15, 20, 30, be very, very careful. It's the future, but it's still really, really early.
So I was at a, can you hear me? I was at a venture capital firm in 2009 or 2010 when I met Alex, and he was raising capital from Groundwork. So it's good to see the evolution and how successful he's been in Celsius. My question is, you mentioned NFT, and that might play an important role in the future of crypto in general. What about Celsius specifically? What new kind of innovation and features are you guys coming out with? And then maybe as part of that, you can also address how you differentiate yourself from competitors like Alexa.
Look, Nexo, BlockFi, Voyager, these are all great companies. I believe that competition is a good thing. Nexo is a Bulgarian company. My family's from Bulgaria. I love Bulgarians, don't get me wrong. Their token is more of a security token. They provide very similar services to us. We believe that we've got more, that our approach to regulation and our session regulators is far more advanced than Nexo, but I like them. I think that they're doing a good job for the space. They're more Europe-centric, we're more US-centric. Our token is a utility versus security. Services are very similar. Our claim to fame, the money we make, 80% we pay back to our community. They do not. They're there to serve their shareholders. We are here to serve you. This is the main difference that we have. As far as innovation, we just launched a new project called Celsius X, which would allow us to do a multi-currency, multi-chain, so you'll be able to move across chains. It's super, super interesting. We created Celsius Labs that is looking at various DeFi protocol that we can, play a role and help develop. And part of what we do with a portion of our profit is we pay it forward. So we invest in entrepreneurs that are committed to making this space more successful for us all. And we have a lot of people that come and want to work with our platform and want to work with our team. We're investing heavily in security. I'll go back to the question that this gentleman asked. There are many Israeli companies and American companies that we've been partners, design partners, to help us to make the whole platform more secure and safe.
Thank you for coming and speaking, Daniel.
Thank you.
2 quick questions. 1, why Las Vegas for the new location? And 2, I've been reading a lot of consulting groups' research, but it always seems to be late or dated. Is there any institutional player that you think does good research on the space that you would keep up with?
Mazari, I think does a good work in the space.
Say it again.
Mazari.
Mazari.
Yeah. PwC has issued a few reports lately. Galaxy has issued a few good reports lately. I think Goldman has issued 1 or 2 reports last quarter. The block, I think it's a good service that, but I think it's a pay to play, right? So you have to have a subscription. But still a very good, the block has a very good service also. And why is Vegas? I don't know, Vegas is cool, that's good. Look, you guys know Zappos? So I met Tony years ago. Very unfortunate incident with him. A great entrepreneur, and he invited me to the Zappos office and center in Vegas, and I met some unbelievable people who are committed to customer service like I haven't met anywhere else. Cost has obviously played a big role in it, and we needed a center in the west side of this country to help us to provide a 24/7 customer support center. We're not there yet, but you know, when we kind of weighed California and Washington and Vegas, we felt that Nevada was just a great place for us, and Vegas specifically. Great talent, young people who are committed to customer support. I've seen what these people have done for Zappos, and like, I want to create something very similar to that. And we're very fortunate to have built a team of 75 people within weeks and we just launched our call center yesterday, actually.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. So I have two questions that pertain to strategy and to adoption. You talked earlier about the security problems that people have with DeFi, but more from a financial strategy. You talked about 18% APYs. DeFi is 18 months old. How do you foresee the market forces of interest in crypto affecting the interest that you're advertising? I'm thinking about competitors that are in DeFi and have a compound. In May, in January, their interest were dropping. So how do you face this?
Look, our interest is slowly dropping too, right? When you're managing billions of dollars and when you're trying to mitigate risk, you're going after less attractive and less, far more tempting opportunities, right? Because it is the Wild West out there, and it's concerning, right? I mean, we're looking at this project. There's some really promising projects, but it's still, we are so concerned about making a mistake, and it's enough for us to make one mistake for anybody here to have a run on the bank or for people to start withdrawing their coins. So we would rather earn 5, 6, 7% than 50, 60, or 70%. So what you're seeing is that you're seeing kind of decoupling, the shrinking of the interest rates, and we're expecting that as soon as the market will become more efficient, and as more and more parties will come in, more competition will supposed to kind of drive interest below, right? And when you manage $28 billion and one day maybe $100 billion, it's going to be hard to continue to deliver 12, 15, 20%, right? And trust me, our deployment team has constant battling, they're constantly battling the risk team, right? And that battle is a healthy battle. But I would rather err on the side of cautions than not go out there and continue to promise 12, 15% when one mistake will bring the shop down.
Does Celsius see CeFi as a long-term solution, or is CeFi just a temporary bridge to DeFi?
CeFi is a bridge to DeFi. I don't think it can do. Take that microphone back. Ask the question again.
So do you see CeFi as a long-term solution?
To what problem?
There's currently traditional assets that need to be in the decentralized ecosystem.
Look, I mean, just like when someone said to me, "Oh, Bitcoin is going to kill the dollar. In 5 years from now, there won't be any dollar in circulation." I think that the two systems will coexist for a while.
How long is a while?
Dude, I don't know what's going to happen next month. Honestly, this is the honest answer. I'm going to be. We're going to bring a new COO from a big bank to take over my position soon. As we grow, you want to bring in better and better people to help us scale, and my new role will be the head of strategy. And it's kind of funny when you think about strategy in the space because there's so much uncertainty.
Right.
right? So, we're thinking and we're planning for 6 months. That's the most we can do, just because there are so many changes that are happening every single time. One of the main challenges of this industry is that it's that constant change. I mean, like, there are new technologies and new platforms and new protocols every single day that if you don't sit down and read for an hour or two every single day, you just feel like you're staying behind, right? So I honestly don't know. I think that I honestly do not envision a world where CFI doesn't exist, right? Even 20, 30 years from today, maybe, right? But it's really hard to tell.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I have a question about the lending process. If you could shed some more light on the lending platform, how does it work exactly? Or to be more clear, let's say I'd like to buy a house and I'm borrowing from you $1 million. Then at one point, of course, everybody would love to do it, but then I would have to, correct me if I'm wrong, pay you back in crypto. So then I'm exposed.
Yeah, so it doesn't work this way, actually. So when you borrow money from us, it's always against crypto that's being used as collateral. So if you want to borrow $1 million, you would have to put up $2.5 million worth of crypto against that $1 million. So my perspective, you can go and run away with the money. I don't care. I've got 2.5x on the average worth of crypto against that $1 million that I've lent you, right? And as the volatility, if the price of the value of the collateral decreases, there's this thing called margin call. So our lending team will call you and say, what's your name? Yutam. Say, Yutam, sorry, we need you either to put up more collateral or you need to pay us some of that money back because the LTV of the money lent to you vis-a-vis the collateral has changed. So that's why we don't check credit. We don't care who you are as long as you pass KYC and are paying by AML, and as long as you are in a state in which I can actually lend you money. Right? There are only 28 states in the US where we are allowed to operate and lend you fiat against crypto. We don't care if what's your credit rating or credit score, but we insist on you posting collateral against that fiat. That's how it works.
Is New York
And-
one of the states?
No, it's not. and that's
But your mayor is going to change that. Or
Yeah.
that is city.
the incoming mayor.
The next
not
incoming.
not the
Yes,
not this
yes,
mayor.
the next incoming, yes.
And this is at 1%. You said
1%.
that's amazing.
Move to
That's incredible.
Connecticut.
What about Florida?
Florida, yes. So we love Florida. Love.
Where anywhere near here?
No, near here.
No, nothing up here, northeast.
We're working. This fine gentleman is asking a question, then we'll back this guy.
All right.
Just wanted on that guy's same question. So
Yeah.
For collateral, can I choose to use like if I don't want to liquidate my assets, can I give you like USDT and borrow an actual fiat
No.
currency?
No, because it's 1-to-1, right?
Yeah, it is. But I don't want to pay taxes.
Oh, I cannot help you against Uncle Sam. Can't. But what's nice, if let's take Bitcoin and ETH or whatnot, that's precisely what people borrow from us, right? We need to buy a house, we want to buy a car, a bedroom for the new baby, for a new baby. So you do not want to sell the Bitcoin and pay tax on the appreciation of the assets. You borrow money from me, you keep your Bitcoin. That Bitcoin is yours. Pay me back that $1 million. I'll pay you back that $2.5 million worth of Bitcoin. So this way you don't pay taxes and your crypto still appreciates, hopefully.
But then again, you want to avoid the liquidation factor that you just talked about.
There's no liquidation. Where's the liquidation?
Not liquidation, but you will call back for some more money if the price was to go below.
Absolutely. Look,
Yeah.
I have to protect the assets of our community. So yeah, I'm gonna give you a call. I'm gonna track you down.
So a follow-up question here. How do you compute the return on investment or interest? Do you compute it against that collateral or this nominal value that's being lent?
We don't compute. We have an interest that we've determined that is fair interest that we charge our customers. He wants to give him a microphone.
So let's say I give you $100 or whatever worth of cryptocurrency it is. Then you ask me to back it up with $250. And then when you say
You don't give me $100. I give you $100. You give me $200 worth of crypto, and I'll give you $100.
no, I'm not borrowing, I'm lending.
You're lending me.
No, to someone else. So you have a platform, right? You
Yes.
said that you paid back billions of dollars worth
Correct.
of interest.
Ah.
I'm on the lending
Yeah.
side.
Got it. Okay. So the interest that we pay our customers, let's call it rewards. There's no regulators here, right? Rewards. It's rewards. This guy is broadcasting to the internet. It scares the shit out of me.
Totally not.
So the rewards rate is calculated on a weekly basis based on supply and demand, right? So there are weeks that that our deployment team needs a specific coin, Matic. Okay, so if there's a huge need for Matic, what our biz dev team or sales team or marketing is going to do, they're going to do a push notification saying, we're paying 7% on Matic, give us your Matic. Okay, and the rate on Matic or on Bitcoin or in ETH and 42 other assets will change on a weekly basis. Quite often, the main coins we're not going to change. Even if we lose a bit of money, we're not going to change. We're lowering, don't tell the team that I just said that, our rate on some major coin because there's just not enough demand for that coin, right? One thing we're not going to do, we're not going to lose millions of dollars just to compete with some competitors that are paying much more. So we are going to look at what our competitors are doing, what BlockFi or Nexo or Galaxy, whatever, one of those companies, and we're going to determine the rate against them and against what we can actually make on those assets when we lend them out.
And one final question.
Sure.
So with the collateral, do you put it in an escrow account or
Yes.
actually you just
Depends. It can get into the secret sauce, but most of that collateral is kept as in the vaults, so to speak, in the bank.
All right, last question.
You keep on sharing with us your philosophy. You're sharing your philosophy about democratizing the market and being a community. My question to you is: would you consider, or are you already, a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization?
We're looking to it. That's as much as I'm going to say, but that's certainly something that we're looking to.
One more question. One last question.
That's funny. Dan, thank you for coming. And I feel very in touch with the mission of your company. It's one of the few in the lending space that has kind of that community vision. And I know you mentioned about not looking further than 6 months, but for this question, I'm going to need you to look a little bit further than 6 months.
Sure.
And one of the things in crypto that hasn't been figured out in the borrow and lending space is on collateralized lending, which is practically how lending is done in the real world and more in the third world country, right? People are borrowing because they don't actually have the money. Do you envision Celsius tackling that problem in the future?
I envision let's put it this way, we really want to be in a position to tackle that vision. But we're in a space right now, as I said, that there's this, Alex likes to talk about trust deposit. As long as we continue to do well, we continue to execute, we continue to pay the community, there'll be more and more trust being accumulated and given to us. I think that we need to get into a point whereby we'll be able to factor the risk in such a way that we'll be able to lend without collateral.
Yeah.
A few years down the road, I would love to be in that position, right? And I can tell you, if I think the far distant future, we have a saying that we like to use, crypto is to Celsius what book was for Amazon, right? We started with crypto. Our vision, if I'm forced to look into 23 and 24, is that Celsius will be this one-stop shop for all your assets. So the vision calls for us, you telling us, take 10% of my paycheck every month, buy a bit of gold a bit of Bitcoin and a bit of Facebook stock. And you'll be able to log in and say, all right, remove that gold, don't believe in gold, put everything in Bitcoin, right? You'll be able to buy and sell and lend and borrow not only digital assets, but any asset. And I think that for us to bring crypto into the masses, I think the key will be user experience. Right now, it's fucking hard. You have to remember all these things and 2FA and email confirmation. I just want to pay this woman $100, seriously, right? So we're spending a lot of time now, and you'll see some massive improvement with our product that will make it really simple. One of my mentors was Jason Kilar from Hulu, and he used to have a saying that he called it his mother's test. So each time they would release a new version of Hulu, he would call his mom and say, Mom, find me this movie. And he will watch her, how long it will take her to find this movie and press play, right? And until this thing becomes so easy that my father in his 70s can buy Bitcoin with money from the bank, we're never gonna get into mainstream. So for me, the future is something as easy as Venmo. At Sasha, $5, send it. That's the vision. And until we get there, we're gonna keep this crypto among us geeks. And that's not the future that I wanna be part of.
Thank you.
I firmly believe we're going to get to that future.
Amen.
With your help. So we want to thank Daniel so much.
Thank you guys.
It's been super